I still remember the moment my life shattered into pieces. I had been away for 2 weeks, visiting my parents in another state. My husband had been acting strange before I left, distant, cold, like he was just waiting for me to walk out the door. I had a sinking feeling something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. Maybe he was just stressed from work. Maybe I was overthinking things. Maybe, just maybe, I was wrong. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. The first few days at my parents' house felt peaceful, but something kept nagging at me. My husband barely texted. When I called, he sounded distracted, in a hurry to get off the phone. "Just busy, babe," he'd say. "Everything's fine." But it wasn't fine. I could feel it in my bones. Then, late one night, my best friend sent me a text. "You need to come home. Now." My heart pounded. I called her immediately. She hesitated, like she didn't want to be the one to say it, but I pushed her, and then she told me. My husband had moved another woman into our house. I felt my breath catch. My entire body went numb. I made her repeat it, convinced I had misheard. But no, I heard her just fine. While I was away, he had brought his mistress, the woman he had been cheating on me with, into my home. Into our home. Into my home. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My friend continued, her voice shaking with anger. She told me that the woman had been seen with him in town, holding hands, laughing like she had won some prize. And that wasn't all. They weren't even trying to hide it. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. I could feel my entire world tilting. How could he do this to me? How could he be so careless, so cruel? Did he really think I wouldn't find out? That I would just stay away forever while he played house with his new toy? And then, something inside me shifted. The pain, the heartbreak, it all turned into something else. Something sharper. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. If he thought I would sit back and let him get away with this, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. I packed my bags that night. I didn't tell him I was coming back early. I didn't send a text. I didn't make a call. I wanted to see just how comfortable they had gotten in my home. I wanted to see what kind of betrayal awaited me with my own eyes. The flight home felt endless. My hands clenched into fists the entire time, my mind racing with a million thoughts. What would I find? Would they be in our bedroom? Would she be wearing my clothes, touching my things? The thought made me sick, but I needed to know. As the taxi pulled up to my house, my heart pounded. The lights were on, music was playing. My home, our home, was alive with laughter. My hands trembled as I stepped out, my stomach twisting with dread. I walked up to the front door and placed my hand on the knob. I could hear them inside, her giggling, his voice, low and amused. My chest burned. But I didn't hesitate. I turned the key. And then, I stepped inside. The moment I stepped inside, the air in my own home felt different. Foreign, tainted. The scent of an unfamiliar perfume lingered in the air, mixing with the faint aroma of the candles I had once picked out myself. Soft laughter floated from the living room, followed by the unmistakable clinking of wine glasses. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face calm. I wasn't here to break down. I was here to watch, to see how deep this betrayal ran. I took slow, deliberate steps through the hallway, my ears straining for every detail. And then I saw them. There they were, curled up on my couch, sipping wine like they were the king and queen of some castle. She had her legs draped over him, wearing one of my silk robes, the one I had worn countless nights when I curled up with him after long days. It was a grotesque mockery of what my marriage had been, a scene so surreal that for a moment I felt like I was watching strangers. My husband, no, the man I had once called my husband, leaned in, whispering something into her ear, and she laughed, throwing her head back like she didn't have a care in the world. My jaw tightened, but I forced myself to stay silent, to stay unseen for just a little longer. I wanted to see how comfortable they had gotten, and, oh, were they comfortable? The coffee table I had picked out with love was now cluttered with wine bottles and takeout containers. The soft throw blanket I had crocheted during quiet evenings was draped over their legs. The family photos, our wedding pictures, our memories, had been removed from the walls, replaced with a bare space as if my existence had been erased. I felt something cold settle inside me. This wasn't just an affair. This was a replacement. He wasn't just cheating. He was removing me from my own life, brick by brick. And that was unforgivable. I stepped forward. The sound of my heels clicking against the floor made them freeze. The woman, his mistress, turned first, her expression shifting from amusement to confusion to sheer panic in a matter of seconds. And my husband? His face drained of color. For a moment, none of us spoke. The tension in the room thickened, crackling like a live wire. Then I smiled. A slow, calculated smile. "Don't stop on my account," I said smoothly, tilting my head. "You both look so comfortable." The woman scrambled off the couch so fast she nearly tripped, clutching the robe around herself like it could somehow shield her from the moment. My husband stood too, his hands shaking slightly. "Honey," he stammered, his voice uneven. You're home early." I raised an eyebrow. "Am I?" "Oh, I suppose I am. But it looks like you've been managing just fine without me." He opened his mouth, probably to spill some pathetic excuse, but I held up a hand. "Spare me the speech, really. I already know everything. Every detail. Every lie. Every secret. You didn't even try to hide it, did you?" His mistress, her name was Tara, if I remembered correctly, stammered something about not knowing I was coming back. I turned to her, my expression turning to one of mock surprise. "Oh, sweetheart, you knew exactly what you were doing. You don't accidentally move into another woman's house. That's not an oops moment, that's a choice." She swallowed hard, her face turning red. He said you were separated." I let out a soft laugh. "Oh, did he now? Did he tell you that before or after he moved you into my bed?" She had no response to that. Neither did he. I exhaled slowly, looking around the room once more. "You know," I mused, "I spent years making this house a home. And you? You waltzed in and decided it was yours." I turned back to my husband. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? That I would just disappear?" He swallowed hard, guilt flashing across his face. "It's not what it looks like." I let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, really?" I gestured around us. "So what is it then? A social experiment? A surprise renovation? What exactly do you call moving another woman into our house behind my back?" His silence was the only answer I needed. I sighed, shaking my head. "Well, here's the fun part, darling. You might have moved her in." I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick envelope, tossing it onto the coffee table. "But I already moved you out." His face paled as he picked up the papers. Divorce papers, with every asset transfer carefully outlined, including our house, or rather, my house. "You see," I continued, my voice dripping with satisfaction, "I knew about your little games long before you thought I did, and while you were playing house, I was playing smart." His hands trembled as he flipped through the documents. "Oh, and in case you're wondering," I added, crossing my arms. "Yes, I already filed them, and yes, the house is already in my name. So really, you and your little guest here are trespassing." Tara took a step back, her face losing every ounce of color. "What?" I shrugged. "What did you think was going to happen? That I'd just hand everything over to you two?" I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Oh no, darling, I don't lose." My husband, ex-husband now, looked at me like he had never truly seen me before, like it had just dawned on him that the woman he thought was weak was actually 3 steps ahead. "You have until tonight to get out," I said, my voice final. "After that?" "You're trespassing, and I will call the police." Tara turned to him, panicked. "You said she wouldn't do anything," she hissed. I smiled. Guess he didn't know me as well as he thought he did. I turned, walking toward the door, but then I paused. "Oh, and one last thing." I reached into my bag and pulled out a spare key, the one he had given me when we first moved in. A symbol of trust, of building a life together. I held it up between my fingers, letting the light glint off of it for just a moment before I dropped it. It clattered to the floor at his feet. "I won't be needing that anymore," I said softly. And with that, I walked out of the house I had built, head held high, leaving behind a man who had destroyed everything, and a woman who had thought she had won. They thought they had taken everything from me. But in the end, I was the one who had the last laugh.